Gerald, do you hear me?
I hear you fine, buddy. How do you hear me?
Oh, boy. What happened to my Skype? I don't understand.
All right. Okay, buddy?
For whatever reason, let's start from the beginning. Now, by the way, I know a little about this world by accident. I wrote a book called Return of the Giants, but it wasn't, I didn't dive into, there was a UFO wave in Israel, that's as far as I dived, all right? Who were the Anunnaki? Who were they?
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Let's talk about who the Anunnaki were. And I know we only have an hour. I want to say a warm welcome to you and all your guests, so I'm going to go a little fast today for those who want.
No, we can have you back. Don't feel rushed.
Okay, well, let's be thorough then. Who are the Anunnaki?
Yes.
What do we know? We know from the early Sumerian accounts, and I'm not going to name them all so we can get them all in there, that this race of beings landed on this planet approximately 450,000 years ago. They hailed from a planet they called Nibiru that's just out past Pluto. Okay, so we know we have evidence that planet exists, and we can talk about that in a moment. They came here. The planet was in a 3600 retrograde orbit. That means they got to go clockwise while we're all going counterclockwise and got to see all the planets. A mobile observatory, if you will. Through their spectroscopy, they were able to determine which planets had what kind of resources. Turns out they had a problem with their atmosphere approximately 450,000 years ago when they decided that they had to do something to increase the resistance to radiation that was really increasing as they got close to perihelion.
They had an atmosphere outside Pluto?
Yes, they did. And apparently their planet was geothermally heated, and they produced either a carbon-based atmosphere like we do from our volcanoes, or they were using an artificial ionizing element like a transition metal in their atmosphere to shield radiation and also to reflect heat back in. So they were interested in greenhouse gases because they were trying to produce them.
But let's add, they didn't have much sunlight.
No, they didn't. As a matter of fact, they were portrayed as highly sensitive to the solar radiation, oftentimes with sunglasses and their skin completely covered when they were on this planet. So they say they landed here in our Persian Gulf going after monoatomic and alluvial gold in order to ionize it and put it in their atmosphere as a shield. So about 445,000 years ago, Enki, their chief scientist and firstborn son of Anu from Nibiru, and you'll see this in my genealogy table, landed in the Persian Gulf, set up the city of Eridu, which is in southern Iraq today, where he set up a mining operation to get gold from the ocean. According to the records, they didn't get it fast enough. He was put under pressure to go to Africa where they were able to mine it, but didn't really have the resources to do it efficiently. At that point, his half-brother Enlil, who was the lord of the command, he was higher ranking even though he was younger, was sent to the earth to take over the bond heaven earth which existed in Mesopotamia.
All right, we're talking Enlil and Enki.
Yes, we are. They were the two highest ranking members on earth of the Anunnaki Council of 12.
And this was 450,000 years ago, before there were humans as we recognize them.
That's correct. They mentioned bipedal hominids on the steppes of Africa once they transitioned the metallurgy operation and gold mining operation to South Africa. Enki, being a scientist, was clearly observing the flora and the fauna on every place he went. So let's go to that account in Africa. So what happened that led to our genesis? That's what everybody really is focused on. So in the Sumerian...
Not so quick.
Not so quick? Okay.
This business of starfire gold, look, I don't know how gold does anything for an atmosphere.
Well, let's talk about that. And when we rad-hard chips that we build today and put them into space for satellites or orbiters, anything like that, radiation hardening has to do with shielding it from the higher radiation that's not occluded by our atmosphere once it's out in deep space. So you get a lot more microsievert absorption in space than you do here on our planet because of our atmosphere. Well, so what do we know is a good shield? Gold is one of the best radiation shields around. They put it on the space helmets and visors and all kinds of shielding for electronics. So that's why it's so wonderful, and it doesn't decay.
Alrighty. I don't know if I dare do this. Look, I don't know if we should talk modern starfire gold and... Oh, boy, this gets complicated.
That might be a little advanced for where we're at. Do you want to finish the Genesis count with the Anunnaki?
Yeah, you know what? Let's keep it super simple.
Okay, so now we're down in South Africa. Enki is there. He was given that region, the whole continent of Africa was Enki's. Okay. He was down mining. Apparently, at some point in time, Enlil joined him and was in charge of the Gigi miners who were from Nibiru. They may have been a lower class of the Anunnaki or a different race altogether. They were the penal colony that were down here doing the work. And at some point in time, they named the number of shars, which was a 3600 period for them, at which they got fed up in the mines in Africa, revolted. This was approximately 220,000 years ago. They surrounded Enlil's house, and in this account, they demanded relief. A council meeting was called. Anu was there. He was the father of both Enlil and Enki, and you'll see this from the genealogy.
All right, we've got Anu, Enlil, and Enki. For those trying to follow, there was a meeting 220,000 years ago. Look, that's over 200,000 years after you claimed they landed.
That's right. And when you read the Atrahasis account in the first tablet, they tell you how many shars they were here on this planet. They worked a long time, and Enlil was driving them day and night, according to the account. Would you like me to read it to you? I have it already.
No, you choose. Okay. Keep it real simple.
Okay,
It's not like I'm going away. Let's keep this one Cliff's Notes.
Okay. So the Gigi workers revolted, led by Allah, one of their fellow gods. Keep that name in mind. Does that sound familiar? He was the son of Enlil. He was the son of Enlil. His other name was Nanar Sin. And this is good when you look at my genealogy table on my website or Facebook, so you can kind of keep all this name soup clear. And I'll try to keep it minimalized. The main players, let's review them real quick. Anu, father, head of the council, stationed on Nibiru. Enlil, next highest ranking. He gets all of Mesopotamia, Lord of the Command. Enki was Lord of the Command and doing the mining, but he got kind of demoted to Lord of the Waters. He became Poseidon later. Okay, so just know that the Anunnaki Council of 12 became the Greek pantheon later, and it'll help.
Well, I don't want to do this. Oh boy, your claim is that Enki he created man as we exist today.
Yeah, I could read it to you from the Atrahasis right from the Sumerian account.
If that's the best way, do it that way.
No, I don't need
to.
Do you question the Atrahasis account?
Whatever you say.
Okay, I'll just give you a snippet here so you can kind of see what was written this long ago.
Atrahasis, by the way, where was this recorded?
Pardon?
Where was this written? Where was it recorded?
Oh, okay. The Atrahasis is a pre-diluvial document that's in Sumerian cuneiform that can be seen in a museum today. Okay, this is a piece of clay tablet that's been fired that's lasted a very long time. It's been decoded and it's available in many sources. My best source is from Myths from Mesopotamia, written by Stephanie Dolly, who was an Oxford professor. So it's not a Sitchin translation. It's a digital cuneiform optical character recognition.
230,000 years after this meeting we're talking about.
One more time, Barry. You said something about after this meeting.
We're having trouble. Once again, Mesopotamia was 230,000 years after this council meeting, after the strike.
Yeah. Look, if we can jump to that. The residents of Mesopotamia occurred in 38.
I just want to know why the Mesopotamians had this information so long after the historical, 230,000 years is pretty long.
Yeah, well, we didn't find out about all of these tablets that were in Sippar, in Nineveh, in all of the cities along the Tigris and Euphrates until not even 120 years ago. And then we couldn't read them. We couldn't read them until 50 years ago. And then it's only been now just trickling out where people trust the translations. So, it's just now getting out.
All right.
Okay, so you with me?
Listen, if anyone's with you, I'm with you.
Okay, buddy. Well, we can corroborate a couple of things with the genetic Eve and the genetic Adam study, that chromosomally from Y chromosome and the mutation of the mitochondrial DNA took us exactly to the place in South Africa that the Sumerians told us 220,000 years ago. Okay? We found the gold mines that they talked about in South Africa. They're owned by the Anglo-American Mining Corporation. There's thousands of them, and they're still mining them today. They've carbon dated some of the stuff deep in these mines at over 120,000 years ago. Who was doing that? Sumerians told us who it was.
Well, 120 also is not 450. Just to put things in perspective,
Understand.
It was going on for over 200,000 years before those mines were uncovered.
Right. Well, if you just by inference, that doesn't mean that there aren't mines out there that have older carbon-dated material in it that'll corroborate the story. But the fact that they're there, and Michael Tellinger has gone down there and found all their houses, correlating the story that Sitchin told from the Sumerian account.
All right. So
it's all over the news. It's all over the internet. So, yeah.
The leaders of the Anunnaki met in a council. Where is this going?
Well, where's it going? The House of Shimti in South Africa is where it went. Enki and his half-sister were volunteered to go and create a primitive worker. And I quote, Belet Ili, the womb goddess, is present. Let her create primeval man so that he may bear the yoke, so that he may bear the work of Enlil.
That is
Genesis 1:26.
Primeval man, I don't suppose is us.
Genetically, it says it is. From the Y chromosome, the mitochondrial DNA study, it corroborates exactly with their story. It is us. Homo sapiens sapiens is us. They enslaved us from the Neanderthal bipedals that they found on the steppes of Africa, and here we are. Now,
the common genetic story is we emerged about 60,000 years ago, along with the Neanderthals who lasted, another 35,000 years. There are also smaller groups, but in short, we emerged much later.
Not true. That's the out of Africa story that started from 80,000, having Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal overlap, where they were finally wiped out 30,000 years ago. Listen, we just had a story released not long ago showing our evolutionary process of the Neanderthal went back to 400,000 years ago in a very recent release. And I talked about this on Coast to Coast just recently. So we know from the genetic account that our enslavement, our Anunnaki enslavement, happened 220,000 years ago. It's in our DNA.
All right.
What do you say?
What you're saying is that Enki, remember the Enlil, Enki, and Anu was their father. Enki mixed human and animal DNA and essentially laid out a very flawed result.
I agree. And there's all kinds of evidence, and I posted an article on that recently, the flawed results in the human structure and our inability to adapt to gravity and all the other problems that we have on this planet. We were not designed to survive on this without clothing. We're one of the only animals on this planet that can't do that.
Well,
and look at all the genetic problems we have.
On the better half of the life. Well, what you're saying is that we die young on purpose.
Well, according to their account, they specifically designed us to have intelligence and limited life of 120 years, which, by the way, corroborates exactly with what's told in the Genesis account in the Bible.
Well, so in other words, we're dumbed down.
We were their slaves, and we weren't to be having eternal life like them because we'd overpopulated this planet once they allowed us to procreate.
And how long were we their slaves?
Would you be surprised to know that it never ended? We're still their slaves to this very day, you and I.
All right. I would expand on that a little bit.
I did, actually. And if you look at the back of my book, I mentioned the release that Paul Hellyer did in front of our U.S. Congress.
Yeah, I remember. He was
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Kind of a minor Canadian politician of about 50, 60 years ago.
Who served as the penultimate Canadian defense minister after his 23-year service to that government. So the people in Canada really venerate him.
What did Paul Hellyer say?
Pardon?
What did Paul Hellyer say?
He mentioned a guy named Charles Hall, who was in the Air Force, and was put on assignment at Indian Springs, Nevada, to go and have a communique, a daily interaction with two tall whites that were based there. The base was guarded by Air Force people while they traded highly advanced military secrets to have this secluded Earth base. Okay, and this guy spent 3 years daily having an interaction with him and has written 4 books about it. So Paul Hellyer mentioned him in addition to pointing out that these two tall whites were running the U.S. foreign and domestic policy and had been since 1945.
You have any idea who the tall whites were?
Yes, they were the Anunnaki. We know exactly who they are. And their Council of 12 is in my book in chapter 2, or page 211, where I give you a whole table of who they were, what their ranks were, and what their names were known across various cultures. And we know who those two tall whites are that are in Nevada trading advanced military technology for a guarded Air Force base. Well, listen, in their account, in between zodiacal house changes, there was massive destruction that happened. That was their term limits, was a zodiacal house. The last zodiacal house has been occupied by Nerta.
When you say we know exactly, that means
pretty close.
Know exactly.
With lots of background information to support it. There's nothing precise in this world, you know that.
Well, you won't get out of it that easily. All right.
Let's get specific.
What you're claiming is that means us, were designed as remotely controllable agents, designed to perform Anunnaki tasks. First of all, that's not an easy claim.
It's not an easy pill to swallow, is it?
Let's expand on this quite a bit, actually.
Okay. Well, we could do it from a technical engineering standpoint where energy meets matter, or we could just do it from a conceptual, functional standpoint on how they design this.
Both.
Both? Okay, let's go down that path. Suppose you put your mark on a primitive hominid and you gave them intelligence. Well, if you gave them intelligence, they'd have the sentient knowledge to go, wow, we're replacing those ones because they couldn't take any more. What's to prevent the new ones from revolting? So the idea of preventing your new slaves from revolting was tantamount to the council accepting this. Are you with me?
Yeah,
So what kind of constraints would you put in these beings so that they were remotely controllable slaves that wouldn't, and if they did get out of line, that you could just terminate them without any effort whatsoever? And know their intent before it even happened. Wouldn't that be a requirement for an advanced being?
I don't know how to...
These beings were very advanced, okay, so keep that in mind. You are designed as a human antenna. You're a transceiver.
I imagine they created.
Go ahead. Do you imagine they created what?
I imagine the slaves who were revolting were us.
Well, the first slaves that revolted they called them the Ajiji, and apparently Enki first landed with about 50 of them in Persian Gulf, and they ended up with approximately 600 of them in the mines down in South Africa, according to the account. Okay, so those 600, 200 of those also revolted and did something abominable in the Lost Book of Enoch, where they took human wives and did genetic abominations with them and produced the Philistines and the giants. So we don't want to go down that path, but they were the same ones.
All right, so they're not us.
Well, the offspring, the chimera offspring of the bipedal hominids that they gave a subset of their DNA to 220,000 years ago is us. Homo sapiens sapien. Absolutely.
All right, so we replace these very naughty workers who were revolting. They replaced them with short-lived but intelligent us.
Exactly. Exactly. We even know which one they slaughtered to create the spirit that was going to animate us. His name was Yahweh. Now imagine that. They had a ceremony to kill one of them and to put its energy into the being they first created. I mean, this is scary stuff.
No, it isn't. That's actually a hard concept. I don't know what you mean.
Well, the idea
I would expand on that a bit.
Well, the idea of their complete knowledge of energy and matter, such that the human soul or energy, whatever's animating us, was able to be taken from one body and put into another at their will. That's what I'm saying. And this included their discussions of the underworld and beings and managing. If one went in, one had to go out. It was almost like a shell game where they kept track of this. And we were the shells. And it's unbelievable that they had this level of knowledge of energy and matter.
So you're saying all of mankind were created from the spirit of one non-mankind?
Well, it looks like he was one of the Ajiji miners that got sacrificed, and it's in the Zoroastrianism account, the very first tablet.
All right, so one way or another, we're all from him.
Well, that's what our DNA states, and this, ultimately the story is going to be disclosed in the analysis of our DNA. Now, we've been told 98% of it is junk, and none of us believe in nature through the process of its efficiency that it produces that level of junk in any being. We know that. So we've been decoding that recently. First, it was to find out how the genetic material produces proteins in the sequences in the lexicon. We got that. On top of that, with this 98% junk, which was a subset of the DNA that the Anunnaki gave us.
Right.
Some of that is involved in sequencing the DNA. So there's a metacode on top of your lexicon that we just now discovered. So now consider that as we go in and do gene sequencing and splicing, not knowing there's a metacode on top of it. Imagine the kind of abominable things we're causing just from our ignorance.
Like what?
Well, all kinds of genetic misfits, possibly many of the genetic anomalies we see that are on the rise in our culture. Do you think it's coming from an environmental stressor? Is it coming from us mixing with each other? Where's it coming from? I mean, it's just getting worse and worse.
I don't know. Look, I'm going to read one sentence from you, and you'll understand my confusion.
Okay.
One sentence I underlined. Sentient beings would know that they are fully monitored and cooperate as high-level mission agents. Now, that may seem like, an easy thought. Frankly, I don't understand what it means at all.
Well, it's interesting because what you just said shows up exactly in how the Sumerians responded to these beings that were generated.
Oh, Gerald.
I'm going to write down my notes. We're going to lose track.
3 minutes. When we come back, after you plug yourself, let's carry on from there. Hang on for 3 more minutes, will you?
Okay.
Righto.
I pledge allegiance to the King of Kings, and to his kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. One holy nation, and our Heavenly Father, grace, mercy, justice for all.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our Listen and Schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Hi, Nicholas here. I used to lug those big jugs to the market to fill with water from those coin-operated filter machines, 25 cents a gallon or 5 gallons for $1. I used to. Then I got the big Berkey. Now I save my back and hundreds of dollars too. I was paying $600 for the same 3,000 gallons of water that a pair of black Berkey filters will provide from my own tap for only $99. This means that your Berkey water system will entirely pay for itself with only 1,500 gallons of use. And then you will still have 1,500 gallons left before you need to replace the filters. Do the math. Stop throwing your money away on bottled water and filter dispensers that may or may not be delivering as promised. For a limited time, First Amendment Radio is offering 10% off on the most popular Berkey water systems. Visit the shopping page at firstamendmentradio.com or call us at 559-781-3773 for more information. Leave your name and address and we'll send you this special offer. Do it now. First Amendment Radio is an authorized distributor of Berkey products.
Hi, everyone. It's Barry Chamish talking from a phone now. Suddenly my Skype disappeared. Can't get it back. And my guest is Gerald Clark. But, Gerald, before anything else, tell people how to get a hold of you and your material.
Okay, Barry. My website is GeraldClark77.com, GeraldClark77.com. There are links on there to my Facebook, which has significant supplemental information to go with my book, The Anunnaki of Nibiru, Mankind's Forgotten Creators, Enslavers, Destroyers, and Saviors, and Hidden Architects of the New World Order. Kind of a long title, but it works.
All right, we'll get to New World Order. It's all on my list. And lest my listeners think this is easy, you should see what I excluded. All right?
Yeah, I know. It's hard. This is a topic that spans 450,000 years to now, and we try to talk about it in a 1 or 2 hour radio show. It just, you can just do a précis version. That's it.
We're doing all right, okay? Let's do this sentence that I looked at it. Sentient being. What is sentient, first of all?
Well, I would call that a being that has reflective consciousness, and I think we're one of the very few ones on the planet that has that. So the idea that you can reflect on it and discover that you've been enslaved is kind of a requirement. You need reflective consciousness for that to happen.
Well, according to us as sentient beings would know that we are fully monitored and cooperate as high-level mission agents. Now, tell me if I'm the only one in the world who doesn't understand that sentence.
I'm not sure, but I think I could help you understand it real quick.
Please.
Okay, well, first of all, when we talk about a sentient being, we use the term reflective consciousness. They had intelligence. We know they had that. Now, we go to the Sumerian account, and we go, going forward in time, because they were started by the Anunnaki. They told us they were. What did they think about this enslavement? Because they were clearly sentient beings, had all the high culture that we had. We got everything we had from the Sumerians, over 100 first. They said in their account, they knew
known civilization, but it wasn't that long ago. My goodness, 5,000 years maybe?
Yeah, well, this was the resurgence of Mesopotamia. Eridu goes back 450,000 years ago. It's still there today. And they had 7 pre-diluvial cities. Then after major floods in the area, there were 4 major ones and multiple minor ones, according to the priests of Egypt out of the city of Sais.
First of all, Sumerians are over 10,000. I made a mistake there. Nonetheless, what are we talking about? We know that we're high-level mission agents. For who, what are we agents for? I don't understand it.
Well, the Anunnaki Council of 12 had set up temples throughout Mesopotamia. Some of them wanted to be venerated, and clearly they were far more advanced than the primitive workers that followed them up there to Mesopotamia. They were brought up there after being brought to the Garden of Eden at the city of Eridu. They knew they were enslaved. They knew their Genesis account, okay? In their Sumerian record, it was no big deal to them. How they somehow were good with the idea that they were created to serve their gods. And every city that had a ziggurat temple had a different god who had partitioned that region. Eventually, they only ended up with 4 regions: Africa, Mesopotamia, the Sinai, and the Indus Valley. Enlil, Zeus, Jehovah had all of Mesopotamia after 3760 BC, which was the genesis of the Nibiru calendar. They're still using it today.
All right. Okay. Now, of course, that's going to oppose the beliefs of, I guess, all my listeners.
I know. That's why I wanted to know if really. That's why I wanted to know if you really want me on my show. Well, listen, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you straight.
First of all, look, don't underestimate me. All right.
Okay. Good to go.
I learned the hard way, and there was a period. Well, I wrote a book on a UFO wave, and I got involved with all kinds of people with all kinds of beliefs. Don't worry about me. I'm okay.
Well, let's do something that really shocked me now that we've fast-forwarded to Mesopotamia. We know that the region was under Enlil's command as of 3760 BC. It's in the record. We know who was in the city of Ur. It was the capital of Sumeria 3 times. Okay, this is after Enki was already gone to Africa. Okay, so in that account...
Wait a second. The city you mentioned, is it Eridu?
No, there's Eridu, Larsa, Ur, Uruk, Bad Tabira, Sapar, and Nippur. Those are the important ones. Sapar was the spaceport. Nippur was mission control. Okay? And Eridu turned out to be the very first city that was Enki's before he left that region and went to Africa. Okay? It became Enlil's and his offspring. So we got the Enlilites in Mesopotamia and Enkiites in Africa. And they spread out after that. Okay?
Okay.
So where do you want to go with it from there? We talked about being sentient beings and knowing they're enslaved.
Look, you're talking about... Look, I'm going to go what I understand.
Okay.
The first ruler of Eridu served for 28,800 years. That's a lot of birthdays.
Yeah, and they were counted in Sumerian shars according to the Sumerian kings list composed by Berossus. His name was Alulim, and he was given the first kingship when the Anunnaki started transitioning their kingships to their demigods. Okay, first the gods had the rulership and the kingships, but when they started doing demigods, the genetic offspring of them and the primitive workers, Alulim was their first ruler who was given kingship in Eridu. Now, he wasn't the only one that served 8 shars. That's only 8 years to them. Do you realize that? Even though it's 28,800 years, divide that by 3,600. He served 8 years. The next guy served 8 years. The next guy served 8 years. Okay, they all did. It wasn't just him.
The animals on this planet, you know, a turtle can go 180 years. I think that's the longest lived.
How about a giant sequoia? How about a giant redwood? How long can they live?
They're trees, and they can go a long time, but nonetheless, 28,800 for a flesh and blood creature is a long time.
Yes, sir. And what do we know? This is where the monoatomic gold came in. They were aging faster on this planet than they were on their planet. They learned that from an emissary that came here as a schoolmate and said, you're getting older than we are. What's going on? They knew about it. Their medical officer, Nin Herzog, worked with them. They came up with a solution that affected their telomeres. If you could keep the telomeres from shortening, you stopped aging. They figured this out, and so did we in 2009. A Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, one of your claims is they drank this form of gold, this starfire gold, and it for their longevity.
Exactly. That's the same story. And this has to do with your telomeres. We discovered that somehow putting in a monoatomic element is a precursor to telomerase that causes your telomeres from shortening. If you stop your telomeres from shortening, you don't age. You don't age. And that's the same thing that goes on with a redwood. You know, it's DNA. It's the biology of life in a seed. How can you make it go on in perpetuity? They figured it out.
Well,
they were
mostly they go 1,000 years at their best before they're chopped down. You're talking 28,800 years.
Right. Usually the redwoods get destroyed by fire or weather or something like that. But they would live forever unless they were destroyed. Well, we know that's a capability. And listen, there are people heavy in the longevity game that are having their telomeres measured, taking precursors to it, and changing their state and stopping.
What are telomeres?
Well, the telomeres are the end of you have two strands of the DNA. They wrap together as a coil. Looks like two snakes together, right? That was the symbol on the Caduceus. On the ends of it are little caps, and they're kind of a dark band. Okay, that's where that's the part that when the cell replicates, it needs that part to maintain its length because it specifies the continuity of the DNA. Well, when that starts breaking down, that's what shows up as aging in our bodies. So you stop that, you stop aging. And we know that. That was issued as a Nobel Prize in 2009 to 3 scientists who did exactly that. So it's a big topic right now that started in 2009.
All right, all right. You're saying that our DNA is configured to kill us.
Exactly. Slow motion death to clamp us at 120 years. Absolutely. The Anunnaki themselves didn't have any such clamp. They had the full-on DNA. We got a subset of theirs. We didn't get it all turned on.
All right, I'm going to ask another one.
Okay.
What is, you ready?
Sure.
Again, what you wrote to me that, boy, do I not understand, but let's see what you can do. Here's your sentence.
Okay.
What if the EMS at some frequency can trigger a genetic transformation symbolic of the rising energy from the base of the Caduceus, altering the entwined serpent DNA double helix, changing the being into a higher level conscious entity in touch with Anunnaki control? That is some sentence. And if you think when I read that I understood it, what's the base of the Caduceus?
Okay, let's do it real fast. The Caduceus was the symbol.
Oh, we got time.
Okay. I thought we ended at 5. Are we ending at 5 in 15 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I'll do it as the pace that we don't want to overwhelm the listeners.
No. Let's start out this sentence. I didn't understand it.
Okay, I'll try to explain it.
What is the Caduceus? Let's start with that.
The Caduceus is a symbol that belonged to Enki's second-born son. His name was Ningshita. He was known as Thoth in Egypt. He was the one who did the genetic upgrade on the beings that were brought to Eridu so that they could procreate. So he's a geneticist. That's what the entwined serpents on the Caduceus means. This is a single pole, snakes entwined around it, starting at the bottom. The two snakes face their heads at the top. Wings come out at the top of the pole, and there's a little knob on top. That is an alchemical symbol that represents energy and matter in the human body relative to your chakras. So what I was saying in that sentence was they knew the process of jacking up your energy in your body so that those chakras turned on, activates the pineal gland, which releases dimethyltryptamine, gives the wings of Hermes, which is really cerebral spinal fluid that starts pumping into the lateral ventricles of your brain. When that starts happening, you are on a different wavelength such that you can listen in and sometimes, occasionally, piss off the Anunnaki because now you're on their mental frequency. That's what it means. And
once you're on their mental frequency, how do you know it?
Well, you ever see the little game down at the little kids' store, I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese, where you have a little weasel pops up in a hole and your job is with a hammer to knock it back down?
Well, I know the game.
Guess what? If you pop your head up on their frequency and you're not supposed to, or you're not ready, you're not an ethical being, look for a pop on the head. That's how you'll know. It's a war, and it's an evolution of your consciousness, such that each stage in your chakras, you get to get tested. And all religious traditions talk about this incremental process of waking up, and that's what it is.
I don't think they meant it well.
Not all traditions. Many of them do. Let's not use absolutes.
To wake up is, going all the way to be in touch with God or something like that. But I don't think it's being bopped on the head by the Anunnaki.
Well, we know that. Here's the assumption, Barry. if we were given the archetypal energy and genetics from Enki himself, then all men, as they evolve in their consciousness and their physical body through their chakras and reach this heightened state of consciousness, they should expect that they're going to reach the energy archetype of their creator, who was Enki. And for females, that's Isis, who was Nin Hartzog, his half-sister, the medical officer. That's the truth. Okay, that's in the record.
Well, let's not be absolute here. First of all, where is the background proof that this, in fact, is the truth?
Which portion? Do you want to talk about the Caduceus?
Any old ones you want. Go to it.
Well, the Atrahasis itself talks about Ningshita, who was Enki's son, and the upgrade that he did. He was the one who set up the 12 mystery schools. 12 is a magic number, right? The number of planets in our solar system that they claim.
I don't think we have 12.
Yes,
as a matter of fact, they got rid of Pluto.
In 1983, Dr. Harrington found a planet 4 times the size of the Earth, just past Pluto, that perturbed the ecliptic orbit of Saturn and Neptune. And Uranus, for that matter. And it was the video's on my website, GeraldClark77.com, where Dr. Harrington, head of the U.S. Naval Observatory, stated this in 1983. It's not a question anymore.
What's the name of this planet?
Nibiru, the same one the Sumerians called it in their account.
Okay.
They called it Planet X to represent the 10th planet when they named it, and also to cast doubt on what they were going to call it. Because at that point, they had not decided to call it.
If you pointed a telescope, could you see it?
They used the IRAS scope. It was an infrared image that they were able to pick up, and they've built 2 telescopes on Mount Graham in Tucson to actually be focused on that. One of them, believe it or not, is called the Lucifer scope that was put up by the Catholics. Imagine that. One of the most scopes in the world.
I don't know what to say.
Okay.
What do you mean put up by the Catholics? What does this mean? Again,
well, you can Google this. This was in several people's books. And on Mount Graham, a very large infrared astronomical scope, one of the largest in the world, was built by the Vatican and placed on that mountain right next to the other observatory that's on Mount Graham that belongs to I believe it's the University of Arizona. And the scope was named with an acronym, Lucifer. Now you ask yourself why. What are they saying? What are they trying to project? Is it a joke?
I think you have to answer that.
Oh, I do?
I don't know why.
All right. Well, let's do it then. Okay. Let's go to the canonical Bible and talk about these old names of Satan and God. Where did they come from? It came from the Zoroastrian religion, where they had summarized all the Anunnaki gods in the council. The top 2 was Enlil and Enki. One was Ahura Mazda in Persia. The other one was Angra Mainyu, the great destroyer. One was the god of light and wisdom. That was Enki. The other one was the great destroyer. That was Enlil. Okay, that didn't change, and it never has. That's hard to accept when you find out that was the being who had his headquarters in the city of Ur, where he was also called Yahweh, on the Lamentations of Ur. Hard to swallow.
What Bible is this?
Pardon?
You said it's from a Bible. What Bible?
I said from a Lamentations of Ur, a clay tablet that was found in the city of Ur during the 3rd dynasty of Ur when it was destroyed. Had 2 names on it. One of them was Enlil, the other was Yahweh. He was served by Terah, who was Abram's father in the city. There's no question about this.
Okay.
You can deny it all you want, but Enlil was the chief deity of the city of Ur, and he became Jehovah Yahweh. That's it.
Okay. I'm doing my best. I'm okay. Now let's go back to where we started.
I got a little emotional there because, that's
No, it's fine. Let's go back to where we started. Can you really change human DNA to whatever you want? That's a doable thing.
That's the interesting thing that Caduceus kind of represented. And one of the neatest guys I really came to know, Neil Freer, who was friends with Timothy Leary, actually wrote something about this incremental, encoded, time-triggered DNA sequence that elevates our consciousness. And it just so happened that the highest level of our consciousness in this sequence in our DNA gets triggered coincident with the time we go through the galactic center. Now imagine that. So that we wake up to the highest energetic state in our consciousness to realize who our creators were. happened simultaneously. It's happening right now.
I'm working on Timothy Leary is dead. That's for sure. But I think
some of his writings were captured by Neil Freer in his book, Breaking the God Spell. And Neil's a great guy, by the way. And in there, he talks about these 4 levels in your DNA that look like a time-coded sequence. And if you understand anything about the lexicon of the 4 A, T, C's, and G's, that's highly possible. And it probably is what happened, because Enki was all about not keeping us as slaves. He only saw us as an augmentation in time so that we still woke up to our highest state. That's the secret. We all have that ability to reach that highest state. Enlil did not want that at all.
All right. Now, this higher state, if we're going to drop dead, and it's not 120, you start getting a little useless in your 80s. What are we going to do about taking over? Why are they afraid of us? Who? By the way, what are they afraid of us doing? Let's sort this out.
I think their biggest fear when they came here and colonized this as a remote planet to steal our gold as a resource for their own lives was the same thing that happened in the mines. They got outnumbered by the workers and they revolted. So imagine how many of us are relative to the few number of them. And these are flesh and blood beings. They can be killed, but they can also be easily resurrected, according to the account. And they all did it. Not only Ningshita, but Marduk and several of them talked about multiple incarnations if they ever got killed. So that's the crazy part.
Multiple incarnations. Now, as I understand, dead is dead. What is again, you've lost me here.
Well, in the Emerald Tablets, I'm citing a reference where Ningshita Thoth, who talked about building the pyramids in Egypt, talked about his multiple incarnations and the various names that he served under. He was called Hermes Trismegistus because he was also known as Thoth, Hermes, and Ningshita. So he had 3 different names, and then he had another one, and many, many more after that. And I cited a table at a reference that Edward Casey and I both agree on all the different names, that this being was ordered by his father Anu to be mankind's teacher, and he did it across multiple cultures with multiple names.
Yeah, Edward Casey said that in 1968 there was going to be a new world order and everything would change, and he was totally wrong, and it's not the most reliable of sources.
It's a source. I'm with you. Anybody who's given a channeling as a message is not treated as a valid source in our scientific culture. I get that.
Well, the fact is, in 68 there wasn't a new world order as predicted.
What about now, though? He was off by 40 years. Maybe that was just the perturbation.
I'm not sure
it's
arrived yet. What you're saying is this new world order somehow is connected to this, and it's not an easy. It's not something we talk about every day on this show, anyways. Where does the new world order fit? Where does it fit into this?
Okay, well, it kind of starts with the global currency, the U.S. dollar. If you go to the back of it, it talks about Anuit Coeptus Novus Seclorum Ordum, which means a new world order. And essentially it means he approves of a new world order. And you're going, okay, who's doing the approving? And then you got this pyramid with an all-seeing eye on it on top of it's like, what is this symbology? Well, we know this comes through the Masonic order. So you start doing a little backtracking, and with all the political representatives talking about a new world order, which has been going on for years, you have to ask yourself, what are they talking about? Is it a political thing? Is it, is it a military coup? Is it what the UN's doing? And so, the word's been out there for a while. George Bush talked about it. Several of the other presidents did as well.
I know the background of this. I just don't know how
does it connect to the Anunnaki?
To Enlil and Enki, and I don't know how. All right, here's what you wrote, okay?
Well, I could do it for you.
Enkiites preempt Enlil's old world order, repackaged as the new world order. I don't understand that.
Okay. In the old world order, the kind of rule that went on was very autocratic. They called it a kingship, but under the unjust rulers like the Enlilites, it was disgusting. For instance, Nabonidus was the one who was thrown out of Babylon with Marduk and Cyrus as they came in and were trying to get rid of all the unrighteous people, even though Marduk was lambasted and made out to be a demonic symbol. That's completely untrue. Okay? I lost my train of thought.
Right.
Where were we going here?
Hello?
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. You asked me a question. I wanted to make sure I answered.
Yeah. Well, I'll read it again if it helps.
Okay.
How is the New World Order connect? Oh, I'm sorry, wrong.
Gotcha. Okay, I got it now. How is it connected? So.
No, I'm going to read you again.
Okay.
This is you. I started with the Enki as preempting Enlil's old world order. Now we've got this one. Get ready for this sentence. Tell people what it means. It's a long sentence, so listen, folks. Enki is the father of mankind. His son Ningish Zida was instrumental in providing Adapa, the genetic upgrade for procreation. Ningish Zida Jesus provided us the frequency to evolve our consciousness with the help from the Anunnaki. I'm sorry, get that wrong every time. I don't understand that sentence at all.
Okay. In the dying, rising God ritual that was going on in Egypt, that was part of the 12 mystery schools that Ningshita Thoth was in charge of, they would dispense a frequency to the populace so that they could go up a quantized level in their chakras, being 7 of them, 1 to 7. Okay, so in this dispensations, they would create an energy field that ended up in the Caduceus. This is the Kundalini energy that ends up in your ganglia of impar, in your coccyx bone, in your sacrum, that lights up the twin serpents that rise up, according to the Caduceus symbol, that it was his. Are you with me, or am I going too fast?
Yeah, I'm listening as good as I can be. I'm with you.
Okay, so that dying, rising God ritual was about an energy dispensation meant for humans who are built like antennas to receive this energy and wake up. The highest level was to wake up your 7th chakra, which was the pineal gland.
Darn. Okay? Gerald, I hate to say it, but that beep, beep, beep meant we're gone. Listen, tell people quickly how to get a hold of you.
www.geraldclark77.com. That's the best way. GeraldClark 77.com.
Perfect.
Hey, Barry, it's been a pleasure.
Listen, I enjoyed this. I'm not saying I understood everything, but it was lively and enjoyable. Folks, this was Gerald Clark, and this is Barry Chamish. Thank you, Gerald. Next Tuesday, you'll hear from me again, 6 to 8 Eastern Time, First Amendment Radio. Good night, folks. Bye, and thank you again, Gerald.